And welcome, fellow bookworms and film fans. Welcome to this week's episode of The Contented Narrative, where it's a book review around Blue Moon by Lee Child. Now, as you can see up in that corner, I've got every single Lee Child book that has been released thus far. Only ever in paperback, though. I'm very particular about if you start collecting in a certain format or cover, I like to finish off collecting in that format or cover. Now, all these books are standalone books, so it is not a case of you have to read them in order. You can read them out of order. You can read the 24th book first, you can read the second one, whatever one you like. There are a couple that were done to film adaptations as well that I am aware of. However, due to my absolute hatred of Tom Cruise playing Jack Reacher, I'm very wary to kind of rewatch them again. I probably will at some point, but I am very wary to kind of rewatch it again. It is mainly because Jack Reacher is considered 6'7", built like a brick outhouse, intimidating to look at, and Tom Cruise is an amazing actor. He is absolutely an amazing actor, and I've got nothing against the guy. I've watched many of his films. However, he is just too short, and I'm sorry, but he is. And it is a case of with a lot of other characters you can kind of get away with it, but with Jack Reacher, he's supposed to be the intimidating kind of, you look twice at him and go, oh, don't want to mess with him kind of character, you know. And it always bothered me. But anyway, we're here to talk about Blue Moon, not about any books film adaptations starring Tom Cruise. Now, Blue Moon is your typical kind of Jack Reacher novel. Now, if you know nothing about Jack Reacher and you know nothing about Lee Child, this is kind of how it goes. He is ex-military police. He kind of decided to just kind of leave the army. He's, got pension coming in or whatever. And he's decided that he's not really got anywhere to live, but he doesn't want to live anywhere. He kind of becomes a nomad. So he goes out on his own and he's traveling across the country, essentially across America. He'll come into a town. He'll stop to help someone. He'll end up sorting out this big problem. And 9 times out of 10, I'm not being funny, but yes, he kind of helps, standard citizens. But you kind of sit there and go, but what is left? After he takes out organised crime, or after he takes out, kidnappers or whatever, what is left of that town? Will it survive? Will it move forward? Or is it doomed to die now? But he's always kind of he'll come in, he'll save someone, then he'll leave. And this one is no different. So essentially, this has Reacher in a classic tale, and as he's travelling, he sees this old guy on a bus with a large wad of cash in a envelope. The guy seems kind of half asleep, but Jack Reacher also notices that there's a younger kid that's kind of eyeing up this large wad of cash and trying to figure out if he can nick it from this guy as he's asleep. However, the guy wakes up, gets off at the next stop. The young kid gets off at the next stop, and Jack Reacher goes, right, okay, so he gets off at the same stop, and he's kind of following them behind. And then as the guy, the younger kid goes to rob the old guy, Jack Reacher steps in, kicks the younger guy's ass, and asks the older guy if there's anything else he can do to help. And obviously the older guy is sort of can't walk properly, and I believe his name is, what's his name? Aaron Schwarzenegger, I think. But anyway, so he sort of steps up and goes, I can help you. We'll get to your destination. We'll do that, and then I'm gone. I'm not here. I never stay in one place long enough. However, that doesn't go according to plan. So in the background of this, you've got Ukrainians and Albanians, and they're kind of they're trying not to start a war with each other. They've got their own territories, but something is going down. And because something is going down, obviously it kind of pulls these characters into this sort of orbit. Now, obviously you've got Jack Reacher, and he's kind of sat there, he kind of helps him, takes him back to the home, and then realizes that this guy is borrowing money and he's trying to pay off money and he's struggling. So then he sort of goes in and he borrows more money under the assumed name of the gentleman that he's helping. As he does this, the gangsters in charge take his picture, try to help him. He takes 2 of them out by crashing the car, and this kind of inadvertently starts a turf war, as it were, because obviously one mob boss is going, it's 2 for 2. Now we've got to make it 4 for 2, and then the other guy's going, but we're even now, we've got to up the ante. And essentially he then ends up becoming number one hated for both the Ukrainians and the Albanians, and he ends up dragging, as usual, along a lovely young lady that he ends up having intimate relations with, and ends up kind of, you know, going forward with her. And it's quite funny to watch, well, to read, because you kind of can see the catastrophe that's coming, but you kind of sat there going, ah. And so then he ends up taking out both sides of the Ukrainians and the Albanians somehow. But it's brilliantly done. Honestly, it is. And it is a good, what I call, I say these books are kind of like, even though I've never been to an airport, these are airport novels. These are books that you can take on holiday. If it gets a bit scuffed up, if it gets a bit damaged, you're not too bothered. It's kind of a quick, easy read. You don't need to pay much attention to it. The standard format is exactly the same, and this is exactly what it is, and it does not disappoint. This is exactly what it turns out to be. Now, obviously, you know, Jack Reacher over the years has, you know, Lee Child has had some bad books and has had some good books and has some mediocre books. And unfortunately, I think this one falls into the mediocre. It was good. It was what you were expecting, but it wasn't brilliant. And I feel like after writing 23 books, you know, I mean, there's been some that I've just sat there and gone, why have you even written this? But I can appreciate that obviously after writing 23 books or whatever, you kind of sat there going, another one. But I always buy it and I'm always intrigued. I always like watching how it is. But this is kind of just middle of the line. It's kind of, if you wanted to kill a little bit of time, read this book. But I probably wouldn't put it high on my list of recommendations. I probably wouldn't even say, I mean, in regards to this book, if you pick it up at a secondhand shop for a couple of quid or something, I mean, we get all of our Lee Child books actually from Sainsbury's. We wait until they're like we wait until they're like £3 at Sainsbury's, and then that's how we've got the majority of them. But it's not worth kind of buying a brand new copy, or it's not, you know, it's not worth kind of going out your way to find it. There are some good ones in the series, but this is not one of them. It's just, you know, it is what it is, basically. So it'd probably get a 3 out of 5 for me, because it's exactly what you're expecting. There's no surprises, there's no kind of newness, but also it's got an okay kind of story behind it. It took me a little while to get through it, but I did get through it, so that's why it gets a 3 out of 5 for me. Now, obviously, this is my own opinion. If you agree or disagree with anything, please leave it below in the comments. Don't forget to join us next week, and we will be looking at another book to film adaptation. In case you hadn't realised, it's book review, book to film, and so on and so forth. But until then, just remember to always keep it contento.